Hi friends, I'm Tina from Teach the TK Way, and I am a natural classroom specialist, and I empower educators across the globe to design and create their very own naturally inspired spaces while offering play-based hands-on activities along the way. So I'm so glad that you are here to join me this evening. If you have been in any of our other videos and the other videos that I've done, you know that in the last few weeks we've talked about what a natural classroom specialist is, who they are, the type of teacher that they want to become, the type of classroom that they connect with, and how to declutter our spaces. So I know that things have been kind of up in the air in the last couple of weeks, last couple of days, but we are still on track for decluttering those spaces and intentionally designing them. So tonight we're going to celebrate a day of green, and we are going to talk all about plants that you can add to your space. So I want you to think about a few things as we're deciding what types of plants you want to add to your classroom space, your learning space, your office space, whatever space you're designing at this point. I want you to think about a few things. So the first one is, what is the purpose behind the plants? Are you going to be using them as a science activity, as a learning concept for hands-on activities? Are you going to be using them as a stress reducing component to your learning space, an air purifying component, or are you trying to become the au naturel teacher where you are bringing live things into your learning areas? Whatever you decide is completely personal. It's up to you. It should be intentional, and that's kind of one of the pieces of the natural classroom specialist. We want to make sure that what we're doing is intentional, whatever we're bringing in, and that we are authentic in the way that we are setting up these classrooms. So if you are planning to use your plants as a learning activity, there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. You can plant a garden. You can use the plants as something that you would harvest. You can harvest the vegetables, you can harvest the fruits, beans, peas, all of those types of things. So if you're going to use it as a science activity, my number one recommendation would be to plant a garden, an indoor garden, especially this time of year where it's still snowing in a lot of places. Where I live, it's starting to finally be winter, and so the rain is coming, so plants wouldn't do very well outside, even garden plants. So we would start them indoors. You want to choose, if this is the way that you go, you want to choose fast growing plants. So chia seeds have worked well for me in the classroom. They germinate within 10 days or so. The children can actually see the growth. It happens pretty quickly. Sunflowers are pretty fast growing. And my kind of number one favorite is the bean plant. Now I'm going to tell you, when I was growing up, science fair came around every year, and I grew beans every single year. I grew beans. I grew beans in the sand. I grew beans in coffee grounds. I grew beans in the mud. I grew beans in water. I grew them in the dark. I grew them by playing music to them. And I created a maze one year where the bean had to grow around kind of some different levels of cardboard. So I'm a big proponent of beans. They're fast growing. They're easy to, get your hands on them. You can find them. And if you use, like a sugar snap pea or something like that, then the children can actually harvest them at the end and eat them. So whatever you decide, it's up to you. There's a lot of learning that can happen by growing plants in the classroom, especially plants as food. So if you decide that you plan to add plants as a stress reducing component, nature into the classroom, you want to purify the air, I would like to tell you that clinical studies have shown that 2 hours in nature reduces stress hormones by 800%. 800%. So that's just 2 hours in nature. So if we bring plants into our classroom where our students are spending 6 to 7 hours a day, think about the amount of stress hormone that we are actually reducing in these children and ourselves. So bringing in plants, air purifying plants. The spider plant is a really good one to bring into the classroom. They are child safe. Ferns, there's a couple of different types of ferns, and the snake plant. The snake plant can also be known as mother-in-law's tongue. It grows real tall and thin. All of these plants are filters. They filter out the formaldehyde, benzene, and xylene in the environment. And a lot of these are gases that are off-gassed from things like our carpets, our blinds, some of the laminate tabletops, those types of things. They're not necessarily something that we would even realize is being off-gassed in the classroom, but all of those plants help purify the air. They are filtering all of those harsh chemicals every day. So if you're just looking to add some natural components to your classroom because you want to be the au naturel teacher, consider plants that are ultimately going to become learning opportunities for the students, or those that are going to purify and reduce stress. So artificial plants are an option. If for some reason you are just, I'm not a green thumb, the classroom is really, really dark, there are ways to do it. So this plant here is artificial, and the one on the other side is not. It is actually asparagus. It's an asparagus plant, so it's it's dormant right now, which is why it's sort of yellowish. Looks like it's dying. It's going through a dormancy period, but the ones on this side are actually artificial plants. And so when we intersperse the artificial plants with live plants, you don't necessarily notice that everything in the space is not live. So you can create this greenhouse style effect in your classroom or your learning space just by adding a couple of touches of greenery. And again, the asparagus is not a traditional plant, but it's an edible plant, and so it was one that I brought in. Once you have decluttered, gone through the first two videos, you've decided what type of teacher you are, which teacher you connect with, and decluttered all of your spaces, then it's time to start adding the beauty back in. And so not only are plants beautiful, but we are finding that they are serving a higher purpose: stress relief, air purifying, and learning concepts. Now, when you are thinking about the stress relief aspect of it, I want you to add some of these plants to your office space until you're back in the classroom, because I know right now a lot of people are not in their classrooms. They're not able to get into their classrooms. So think about de-stressing your office space, your home. These plants will do the same thing in your home that they will do in your classroom. They'll reduce stress. They will purify the air. So go ahead and either bring the plants that you have in your classroom to your home, or think about those plants, add them to your home office, add them to your home space, and then once you're back in the classroom, you can take them with you and head back that direction. As far as learning concepts, you can still use plants in your distance learning plan. So I am going to be planting some of the beans and things that we had talked about, and I'm actually going to be taking photographs and videotaping those items growing, so that I can send them to my students and they can actually still participate in the science aspect of growing plants even while we're doing a distance learning model currently. So next week I am going to be back to talk all about color and lighting in the learning space. Until then, you can keep up with my science journey and Instagram stories at Teach the TK Way. We have ladybugs, we have caterpillars, and we have praying mantis egg. And so I am going to be showing the life cycle and metamorphosis of each of those items as it happens. I've brought them home with me, and I'm going to be sharing with my own students. And so I'm uploading all of those videos to Instagram stories so that you can follow along with me. The last thing that I kind of want to talk about for this evening is that right now, I know everything is kind of in turmoil and we're not quite sure, what any of this looks like, but I want you to use this time intentionally. So use it for some, online e-learning for you as an adult, decluttering your home office, your home classroom space, decluttering your actual classroom space. If you're still allowed to be in your classroom, go ahead and really work on the nitty-gritty of decluttering and organizing that space. And then remember, we are reducing stress levels by up to 800% by adding plants. So one plant in your home, one plant in your home office, one plant into your classroom. I want you to start thinking about what types of nature you're going to bring in once you are back into that space so that you can reduce those stress levels. I will drop in the comments tonight a checklist, a child safe plant checklist. Most of the plants that are included are pet safe as well, although I haven't double checked for pet safety, but I do know that they are all child safe, the plants that are on the list. And so I just want to share that with all of you. So I will see you next week. This was kind of short and sweet, but I know that we are still working on the decluttering space and adding things back into our learning areas. So I will see you next week, Tuesday, March 24th at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on my Facebook page, and we will talk all about color and color choices for the classroom, for the walls and different things, and lighting, how we're going to go ahead and get that natural lighting even in the dark recesses of our classrooms. So I'm so glad that you were able to join me, and I will see you next week. Bye.